Okay, so we are coming into the fourth week of January, and I just got a couple of questions for you. Question number one: how's that gym membership going? How is that business you said you were going to start as your New Year resolution? How is your diet going? Are you still eating healthy? So I'm not saying this to laugh, even if I'm laughing, I'm not making fun of you. Honestly, I'm just fully aware that at this time in January, chances are those initial momentums might be waning when it comes to the resolutions, the intentions, the goals we set ourselves. And that's why you've come onto this episode, right? We're going to be talking about how to stay consistent because 2024 is about getting it. We want to get the bag, we want to start the business, we want to get that dress size we have been chasing after. We want to start eating healthy, right? We want to go vegan, whatever it is we set ourselves. 2024 is all about keeping it going. So the Fierce Feminine is here to help you keep it going. You're not about to let go of your New Year resolutions. You're not about to drop the ball on your objectives. In this episode, we are going to be talking and working with together to stay consistent. Come on, we gotta keep those resolutions going. We've got to keep those objectives going because 2024 is the year for change. So let's get into it. Guys, I'm going to give you a little bit of a disclaimer to start off with honestly, right? To stay on track with anything, we know fully well. I'm not going to insult your intelligence, right? I'm not going to tell you what you don't already know. We already know the best way is to stay consistent, right? The way to achieve anything, the way to make progress in anything in life, make money, whatever it is. Consistency is so important. Consistency is key. But what you may not know is that, okay, yeah, I know consistency is key, right? But how do I stay consistent? A lot of us have the information, right? We have the knowledge, we have the theory, but practically, it's like, how do I keep my momentum going? How do I keep consistency going? I'll tell you now, it's going to feel so straightforward. You're probably going to want to throw your phone out the window or throw your laptop if you're listening on the laptop when you hear me say this. But honestly, guys, I'm not going to pretend it's a secret because it's really no secret. The two ways I find to stay consistent with whatever goal it is you want to achieve is discipline and motivation. Yeah, you most likely already knew that. You're probably rolling your eyes like, why did I even click on this freaking episode? She's telling me things I already know. Yes, discipline and motivation, honestly, you can't get out of it. If you are looking for easy hacks, then this may not be for you. But actually, you may think so. I don't want to call it easy because it's not easy, but the good news is that it's straightforward. Motivation and discipline are the best ways to stay consistent. And honestly, the other good thing to know is that they are doable. They may not be the easiest, but they doable? Yeah. Are they achievable? Yeah. And what we're going to be discussing, right? What you may not know. So you may have known all those things I've shared with you. But guys, I feel like I've hacked the emotional way to stay disciplined and motivated. And that's what I'm going to be sharing with you. They've been game changers. These emotional hacks I've applied in my life, they have helped me. And if you're thinking, like, honestly, the proof is in the pudding. Number one, I will share with you that I have now been consistent with my exercise routine for 10 months. Like, and that might mean nothing to some people, but for me, that means a lot. Because I was that person who would start a project and never finish it, would start a YouTube channel and never. Also, like, check out this podcast, right? I've been consistent with this podcast for at least going on to almost a year now as well. Like, I've posted consistently. I am now consistent with my YouTube channel. I've been consistent with going swimming. For those of you who may not know, I go swimming 3 times a week, and I've actually now upped it to 4 times a week in 2024. And yes, I've been consistent. And so we're going to talk about how you can stay consistent. And like I said, listen, yeah, if you were looking for something different or if you were looking for like a 2-second hack, then maybe this is not for you. But basically it's all about staying disciplined and motivated. But what I want to share with you is emotionally what I find helps me stay disciplined and motivated. So the first thing, like I said, when we let's talk about discipline first of all. Guys, one thing I've noticed, and I feel like a lot of you will be able to relate to it, like me growing up, I started to understand, and when I say I started to understand, I only understood this in the 35th year of my life. Imagine. So I came across this emotional hack in 2023 at the age of 35. But essentially, right, I realized that I was sabotaging my own growth, my own progression when it came to projects I'd start off with. And honestly, like it came to the point where I didn't even want to face the truth. So the first thing actually, before we even move into discipline, you want to be honest with yourself. You want to be very honest that the reason you're unable to stay consistent with the goal you set yourself, the reason you're unable to stay consistent with that diet plan, with that exercise routine, is because you are currently lacking discipline and you are lacking motivation. There's no two ways about it, guys. If you are lacking consistency, and you might already be giving me 5 million excuses if I could hear you. You're like, oh, yeah, but I've got this, but I've got school, but I've got work, but I've got this, but I just get so tired. Get exhausted after work. I can't go to the gym. I'm telling you now, that's an excuse. You lack discipline and you lack motivation. And we're going to come on to why you lack discipline. So, like I was saying, for years, I used to lack strong discipline, and I got to the point where I convinced myself, like, all right, just accept it. Self love accepts the fact that you lack discipline, and just like, some people are just more disciplined, right? And that's why they're successful with their career goals. That's why they're successful with their physical exercise. They just lack discipline, and like, you know what, it's not for me. It's just not me. I'm just going to accept who I am. But that was nonsense talk. I was literally talking nonsense to myself. And I know I'm laughing, but honestly, like, I mean, now I'm glad I know this information, but I came to the realization that number one, I believed that discipline was just like this character trait that some people had and some people didn't. I just be like, all right, just accept it. You lack discipline, right? And this other person over here is she's just very self-disciplined. So like she can do what she wants. But really what was happening is, and a lot of you can relate to this, is that if you think about it, growing up and for majority of our lives, the only way we have been provided discipline, the only way we've been provided structure in our lives is by someone imposing it onto us. Even if you think about the word discipline, like discipline used to feel like such a dirty word to me, like, ugh, like get away from me with that nonsense talk. Like if being becoming a millionaire means I need discipline, like screw it. I don't want to be a millionaire anymore, because I just like discipline was such a dirty word. And the reason it was such a dirty word is that it was always imposed on me growing up. So I don't want to go to school. Oh, you have to go to school to have that discipline to go to school. Who would provide that discipline for me? My primary caregivers, my parents, right? Your teachers would provide that discipline in terms of helping you stay committed to reading, helping you stay committed to excelling at school. There was always an external factor that would provide you that discipline. What this meant is not that there's anything wrong with that. It just meant that none of us learned, or majority of us did not learn how to acquire self-discipline. And self-discipline is a word that's also thrown out there, but from my perspective, I always just saw self-discipline as, like I said, a character trait. You either had it or you don't. But now I'm thinking about it, it definitely is not a character trait, but it's definitely a behavioral trait. And the great thing about behavioral traits is that they can be learned or unlearned. So if you're someone who wants to stay consistent, you have to be honest in the fact that you've been lacking discipline. And then number two, you come to terms with the fact that there's something called self-discipline. And the answer is already there in itself. It's called self-discipline. So it's something you create for yourself. You create that discipline for yourself. It's not that people are just, it's not like there's a secret shop or there's some magical cafe where they're handing out discipline cakes and you eat that cake and all of a sudden you become disciplined. No, it's a habit that you start to build. But guys, like I said, I'm sharing with you now the emotional hack that I've used to help me stay disciplined. My emotional hack to help me stay disciplined is knowing the why behind my objective, behind the goal I set. What do I mean by that? I'll give you the example. So one of my oh, I just noticed my hair's like sticking out. Alien superstar. Sorry. Sometimes I just randomly see my hair, my locks sticking out. Anyway, oh God, now I just completely lost my train of thought. Okay, no, so what I was gonna say is I feel like I've discovered an emotional hack to creating discipline. And for me, I started to notice and become more disciplined in my life. Number one, by having the awareness that I had to be honest with myself and notice that it's a behavioral thing. And so I can learn it, right? I can't just come up with the excuse that I lack self discipline. Number two, I had to understand that, yes, for all my life, discipline has only been provided to me and has only been created for me by external factors, aka my parents, teachers, employers. But that is not to say I can't create it for myself. So how do I create discipline for myself? How I create discipline for myself is I also had to then remove that connotation I had in my head of discipline being a dirty word. Because remember, right, a lot of the discipline I was used to in my life, or I had been created in my life, came from people who I feel like were just like I had to do it right out of obligation. But knowing my why has been very helpful emotionally to help me build and maintain my level of discipline. What do I mean by knowing my why? If you haven't listened to season one episode, God, I have to remember what the episode is. Come on, Ori, you have to get better at this. But there's an episode where I really elaborate on your why. I might put it in the description box. But for me, emotionally, I find that I can help myself stay disciplined by applying an emotional anchor to what it is I'm looking for, whatever the objective is I'm setting. So take swimming, right? I said I've been swimming 3 times a week for 10 months now. And actually in 2024, I've upped it to 4 times a week. So by the time you watch this video, I would have been going 4 times. And if you don't believe me, go check the proof on Instagram. I post it on my IG. So you know I'm not lying. I am being completely honest with you. And um I'm only sharing approaches with you that have actually worked for me or I actually share with my clients. Like I'm not talking nonsense. But I had to tie an emotional value to why I was doing what I was doing. So with my swimming, people may know because I've mentioned it on the podcast in the past. I actually started swimming for my mental well-being. So back in 2023, my family and friends will know it was so rough. There was a lot of stress, emotional stress on me personally, my personal life. I went for a lot. Boy, I went for a lot at the start of 2023. But I'm glad in a way, like the silver lining for the emotional stress I went through. Honestly, it was to the point that I had to go to therapy because I was like, I need help. But the silver lining at that time for me is that with everything unraveling in my life, I got to the point where I was like, I am sick and tired of being sick and tired. Like something's got to give because it's something like I can't carry on like this. I was mentally, emotionally exhausted and physically exhausted. And I had to really ask myself, what do I want from my life? What is important for me? And I was like, well, I want health because I realized the importance of health. And the other thing that about me is that I love being there for people around me. I actually want to be the best version of myself so I can pour into those around me. I'm like, the only way I can be a good friend to my friend is if I'm in a good space, right? If well-being wise I'm in a good space. The only way I can be supportive to those around me is if I can be supportive of myself. The only way I can fill the cup of others if I can fill my own cup. And I'm like, okay, all right, you already know what is needed to be healthier. And a lot of us out there, we know it, right? I don't need to tell you that exercising is good for your mental health. You likely already know this. I don't need to tell you that eating a healthy diet is great to balance your hormones. You most likely already have this information, girl. I don't need to tell you that exercising will help build your discipline, right? We need discipline to exercise, but then exercise will also help you build discipline. But honestly, I don't need to tell you that. You already know that. But what you're lacking is that emotional value, the emotional sentiment tied to why it is you need to go exercise. A lot of us at the moment, we are surrounded by superficial reasons, right? Or we latch onto the superficial reason for why we want to do what we're doing, but we don't actually latch onto the emotional reason. And I'll give you an example. You might tell yourself, I want to exercise so I can lose weight, right? And then I further push and I go, okay, so why do you want to lose weight? I want to lose weight because I want to fit into my clothes better. Why do you want to fit into my clothes better? Then maybe you start to tap into the emotional. Well, currently I don't feel good about myself because my clothes are really tight and they make me uncomfortable. That was me, for example. Like, I remember I was like, you know what, I lack self-discipline. That's it. That's who I am. Personality trait, moving on. No, but then like even the fact that my mental health was suffering at the time, my emotional well-being was suffering. Of course, I was binge eating. I was binge eating at the time. So I put on weight. I put on weight and I was like, you know what? People go and accept me for who I am. Yes, I put on a bit of weight. Yes, I put on a few extra pounds. Yes, my clothes don't fit right, but it's okay. I'll buy new clothes. No. So you need to ask yourself. But when I used to tap into like the superficial, oh, I've put on a few extra pounds, let me go exercise. I was never able to stay consistent. I was never able to stay disciplined. But when I started to tap into my mental health is suffering, my emotional health is suffering. I can't be there for myself mentally, emotionally, physically. I'm binge eating, I'm eating junk food. And you know that when you're not in a great mental state, you're more susceptible to eating rubbish, for example. You're more susceptible to not want to go to the gym. But for me, in my example, at the time, my why started to tap into that emotional sentiment of I want to be good for myself. I want to be better for myself so I can then be there for those around me, so I can be supportive to those around me. I love my personal relationships. I'm fortunate to be surrounded with really great people in my life. And even my love language is quality time. So I love to spend quality time with those around me as well. But I was like, what's the point of like spending time with those around me when I can't even be there for them? I'm not in my best version, which I'm not saying they won't accept me for who I am at my worst, but I was like, I don't want to be at my worst. I want to be at my best so I can be that light that I know I am. And when I started to tie my why behind my objectives to an emotional sentiment, to I just want to feel good in life. I just want to have a great life. I want to be the best version of myself. Honestly, my level of self discipline started to improve. And because my level of self discipline started to improve, my consistency in the things I was doing started to improve. And then it's like a catch 22. Honestly, it's such a cycle, which is an amazing way that it is a cycle because then it starts to really work out. Because then the things when you actually start staying consistent with exercising, when you start staying consistent with eating healthy, you start to feel good about yourself. Because you feel good about yourself, you start to feel more confident. Because you feel more confident, you start to try new things. Because you start to try new things, opportunities start to open up. And because opportunities start to open up, your life starts to appear amazing. And because your life feels amazing, then you're like, I want to keep it going. So then you just maintain that consistency naturally anyway. But it all starts with having that self discipline, right? Stop waiting on external self discipline. And this is through no fault of your own, right? A lot of us grew up in environments where discipline was created for us, and discipline is important. Discipline is required, and there's nothing wrong with the fact that discipline was created for us. But girl, we adults now, we adulting, right? I'm 35. A lot of people who listen to this podcast are in their late 20s to mid 40s. Like, we grown. There's no parents to create that discipline. So you have to create for yourself. And once you start to learn that you have to create your discipline, trust me, you start to stay consistent. And the more you stay consistent, the more you feel good that you're able to commit to a goal and stay consistent. And trust me, your life is going to turn around. You're going to feel good, and the rest is going to be history. And then I'm going to come on to motivation in a second. But before I come on to it, I want to pause for a moment and shout out is it a shout out? It's not really a shout out. I want to plug my program. So for those of you who don't know who I am, guys, I've like changed my titles a couple of times, but I am a psychologist and a coach. I've been trying to figure out the best coaching title to call myself. My working title at the moment is I am a self expansion coach because like my emphasis on self development, but I feel like self development sounds boring, right? So I will introduce myself to you as a women's self expansion coach with an emphasis in your well-being professionally in your professional lives. Some people have been calling me a career coach. I'm like, ugh, no thanks. Like I do way more. What I do is way more than career coaching. I am a women's self-expansion coach with an emphasis on your well-being and you being the best version of yourself in your professional life. Look, you know what? That's it. I need to write this down, take notes, and start rebranding myself as this. But saying that to say that I have created a program specifically for ambitious professional women. And the whole point is literally what I've just described to help you start to feel good about yourself from within and help you start to be expansive, to be the best version of yourself, and then to start to take up more space. Because, guys, like, 2024 is all about that feel good factor. It's all about getting into, because guys, sometimes it blows my mind. I'm like, are people aware that we spend majority of our productive hours at work? Like, if you're lucky, you work around 40 hours full time a week, Monday to Friday. Some people even work more than that. I've got a friend who works stupid hours. I'm like, how do you do that? It's beyond me. But a lot of people work for the most part Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. And say 9 to 5, like that was such a scam, whoever came up with these working hours. Because when you think about it, like we pretty much spent our productive hours in the working environment. And no one took into consideration how long it takes you to get to work. At least some of us are lucky now we get to work from home. So at least we don't miss out on travel time. But whole point is you spend majority of your productive hours because come 5 o'clock, especially now in London, in the UK, in winter, like it gets dark so early, you don't even want to do anything. But I started to notice and I started to think to myself, like, there's so many coaches out there who work on like helping you leave the 9 to 5. But I was like, what about the people who are still in the 9 to 5? Like, there's nothing wrong with being in your 9 to 5, but because you spend most of your time there, we need to get you into a state where you feel good about your 9 to 5, where you enjoy what you do, where you feel passionate about what you do, and where you just feel good. Well being wise, you feel good. You know you are the best version of you in your 9 to 5. You are your most confident. You know that people appreciate you. You are being respected for the value, your true worth. You don't feel like you're self sabotaging. You don't feel like you don't experience imposter syndrome. I work with women and self expand women, help women in their self expansion so they can have the best lives possible, career wise, professionally. And if that's something that's interesting to you, you sound curious, if I've piqued your interest, then check out the link in the description for more information. And you can press the book a call button to get to speak to me to find out more. But yes, let's get back into the video now. So, how to stay consistent in 2024 so we can get that bag, so we can lose that weight, so we can eat healthy, so we can hack that diet, whatever it is, start that business, whatever it is you're wanting to do, get that promotion. Yes, girl. Whatever it is, how to stay consistent to make sure it happens. We're going to move on to motivation and my emotional hack that I found helps me. And I'm working with my clients now to make sure that they get into this as well. But guys, so the second one, in terms of motivation and how I started to really tack into my emotions to help me with my motivation is, so first of all, guys, in case you didn't know, there's a lot of psychology out there in marketing. So there's a lot of marketers who use psychology, same as in sales, when it comes to like targeting certain things to make you buy. And also, if you, in case you didn't know, some of you may already know this, but when it comes to the marketing psychology or sales psychology, I came across quite a few articles and quite a few research studies on this that basically talks of there's a perspective that believes that as humans, not a lot of us, I was going to say a lot of us, if you're human, then this definitely applies to you. This is not a gender thing, this is just a human thing. So when it comes to our brain and how we make decisions, we either our brain has two elements, so it either wants to run away from pain or run towards desire. And a lot of you may have come across this, and I found it interesting that I came across this when I was looking into marketing psychology and sales psychology. And I was like, do people know that like marketers have been bamboozling us for years? But that's not what this episode is about. This episode is about the science of decision making and how when our brain wants to make decisions in every waking moment, literally, or in every big decision you want to make in every part of your life, your brain is either running away from pain or running towards desire. So that's the first fact you need to know when you want to learn more about how to self motivate. With this knowledge, I have then created an emotional hack to help me stay motivated. And the proof is in the pudding. So I've been consistent with my swimming. I've been consistent with my business. I've been consistent with the podcast. Literally, which this was not me. A lot of my close friends would know. There's so many ideas I started that never went anywhere. There's so many businesses I wanted to start. There's like 2, 3 YouTube channels I tried to start in the past. Never never kept it going. And this is the first time in my life that I've managed to do a 10-month stretch, coming up to a year stretch now. The podcast is coming up to a year soon, of anything in any way, shape, or form, stay consistent. And this is because I've tapped into my why to help me with my discipline. And I mean, first of all, I had to even be honest with myself and knew that I lacked self-discipline and I lacked motivation. Then secondly, I had to have that awareness that, like, yes, I lack it, but it doesn't mean I can't create it. So I can create it. But now moving into the motivation side and having this knowledge that ultimately when our brain is making decisions, right, it's wanting to either run away from pain or running towards desire. I now apply this and I'll give you the example of swimming, for example. So, guys, it's currently cold, gloomy, and dark in London because it's winter time. Like the nights are cold, the mornings are even colder. And I go swimming. I like normally go swimming in the morning because I'm a morning person, right? But recently I had a day where it was super cold, right? And then to add to the fact that it was super cold, I didn't sleep properly the night before. I was struggling to sleep and I could already feel it. I got out of bed. I was already cranky because I didn't get to sleep and it was super cold. And also I was behind on my work. There was a lot of like I had deadlines I hadn't met and I had work I hadn't done. So I was feeling the stress and I was feeling the pressure. And I could feel my brain already start to make excuses or apparently give me reasons as to, okay, all right, you don't have to go to the gym. It was a Friday as well. So my brain is like, I didn't get any sleep. Oh, it's really cold outside. Oh, I have a lot of work I need to catch up on. And then it's going to be the weekend and I wouldn't have caught up. And then I'll be very behind the week after. And I could already feel it. Like the excuses are piling up and piling up and piling up. And honestly, previous me, past version of me would have clutched those excuses with my life, would have clutched those reasons with my life and be like, yes, girl, that's it. We ain't going swimming today. It's too cold for that. Like I would have clung on to those reasons and I would have taken them and run and I would not have gone swimming. And it was like, it's a Friday morning. Like just give yourself an off morning and like use that energy to go work instead. Like use the limited creativity you have considering you haven't slept, use it to go work instead. So on this fateful Friday morning, I could already feel these reasons piling up. But bear in mind, I now have my emotional hack, which I work with women in more detail in the Flourish and Bloom, by the way. But these reasons were piling up, and I was almost convincing myself not to go swimming. But then I'm like, girl, you know fully well what your brain is doing right now. In that moment, my brain, on like honestly, innocently, my brain thought it was doing me a favor because I was already telling myself I feel tired, I haven't slept. So what my brain was doing in that moment, it was trying to avoid pain because in its head it was thinking, she's like, my brain was she's like, I would talk about my brain. My brain was thinking, okay, hang on a minute. Aura's feeling exhausted. It's really cold outside. And also, the thought of her going swimming, having to get changed in the cold, put on her swimsuit, go into the swimming pool where sometimes the water's warm enough, sometimes it's super cold. Like, so my brain was basically doing the math, and in my head, my brain was trying to help me avoid what it thought was pain. So in that moment, my brain thought that the pain would be going swimming, right? And this is most likely what happens to you as well. If you find times where you feel like you're struggling to stay motivated, so a lot of excuses, and yes, there are excuses, and I'll tell you why they are. So our brain is very good at giving us excuses, and the reason it's good as giving us excuses is because it wants to then avoid the future pain, aka you set yourself a goal, you are now failing to meet that goal, in the future, you might start to regret, oh no, what is wrong with me? Why didn't I go swimming when I should have gone swimming, right? So, what your brain does, it tells you and gives you reasons, it creates excuses as to why you haven't achieved whatever it is you want to achieve. So, then in the future, you also then avoid the pain of that guilt of why did I do this to myself? What is wrong with me? Why can't I stick to my goals? So in that moment, your brain is innocently thinking it's wanting to stop you from avoiding the pain of getting uncomfortable for a moment just to get change, have to get in the car, have to get in the cold, have to go swimming. So what I do now is in that moment, first I have the awareness that, okay, what my brain is doing right now is it thinks is helping me try to avoid pain, aka the swimming is the pain, right? Your exercise is the pain. When in reality, it's not, because when you go swimming, when you exercise, you know it's good for you. It's good for you mentally. It's good to help you release stress. So it's good for you emotionally. And of course, it's good for you physically as well. You get to, and then because it's good for you physically, it's also good for even you as a person. It helps boost your confidence. The fact that you committed to a goal and you stuck to that goal, that will boost your confidence. So in that moment where I felt like I didn't want to go swimming, I just had to say, okay, brain, thank you. I see what you're trying to do. I see you're trying to help me come up with reasons as to why I shouldn't go swimming, because in this moment, you believe that a pain for me will be going swimming. But actually, it's going to be a desire. And you might be thinking, well, why is it going to be a desire? I'm like, well, brain, think about how good we feel when we go swimming, right? And again, guys, I'm telling you, this is all knowledge you already know. I don't have to tell you the swimming's good for you or any exercise out there is good for you. We know exercising helps release the happy hormones, right? We all know that. We know eating healthy is good for you, right? Because then it even helps, eating healthy can help balance your hormones. So we all know the health benefits of exercising. We all know the health benefits of eating right. Nobody, I don't need to sit here and tell you. You already know that for yourself. Your brain knows this as well. But what your brain is unaware in those moments, in every moment you want to make a decision, and for you to start to learn how to build consistency when it comes to your New Year resolutions, your goals, your objectives, your intentions, whatever it is, weight loss, starting the business, whatever it is, in moments where you seem like you're lacking motivation, stop thinking there's like a magical pill cold motivation that you can go buy from an influencer or a podcaster. No, what really you're wanting to do in that moment is to self motivate. And a good way to self motivate is to let your brain understand, like, no, actually, brain, what you think you're trying to help me. I see what you're trying to do, brain, by helping me avoid that discomfort, but actually, it's not really discomfort. I'm just telling myself, oh, I don't want to get changed and do this. But really, ultimately, let's think about the pleasure. Let's think about how good we're going to feel. And I notice, and honestly, when I say let's think about the pleasure, like in that time when I'm trying to convince my brain, I close my eyes and I emotionally visualize that feeling I feel after swimming, because I've gone swimming in the past. I know how great I felt for going swimming. So in that moment, I close my eyes and I try and bring back the same feeling I felt in the past after exercising. And when I let my brain and when I let my body physically feel that emotional sensation of, oh my God, it's going to feel so good after I've done the swim, I actually find that really works to motivate me in that moment to make the decision towards the choice I've made. And I want to challenge you to try it and send me a message if it doesn't work, because I'd be surprised if it doesn't work. For me, for the most part, I find that works, that emotional tapping into the emotion of how good I'm going to feel after exercising, how good I'm going to feel after sending that email, how good I'm going to feel. And then I'm like, yes, girl. And I notice then my brain switches, because remember, your brain is only trying to help you. It's very innocent. It's trying to help you. It's either moving away from pain or moving towards desire. So in that moment where you're feeling pain, if you can create a desire, because your brain is focusing on the pain in that moment. Remember my example I gave you of my fateful Friday morning. My brain was trying to move away from the pain of not sleeping properly, the fact that it was freezing. So then to help your brain move away from that pain, you need to shift its focus into a possible desire. If you can do that for your brain, honestly, just try it and let me know how you find it, because it was a big game changer. Like, this is normally what I teach to my paying clients, and I'm giving you guys for $3.99. So try it out, and you better at least put a comment. Let me know how you found it, because that's just like $3.99 information I've given you for information I'd normally give to my paying clients. So you're welcome. But honestly, try it and let me know, because that has been so good for me in helping me stay consistent. Like, it's made such a difference for me, that emotional connection. And honestly, like, start to understand, like, a lot of the times when we feel we're lacking so-called self-discipline, or discipline in general, it's just because we have like a negative connotation. And one positive way that I feel like I came across this on Instagram, definitely on social media, I saw it um written as a quote, and it said discipline is a form of self-love. And I really felt that, because for years, I like I said, I always saw discipline as a dirty word. But no, actually, when you think about it, when you think about wanting to be the best version of yourself, the only way you can be the best version of yourself is through consistency. And to be consistent, the only way to stay consistent is discipline, is willpower, is motivation. These are the only ways. So, really, in reality, discipline is a form of self love. So, in those moments where you think to yourself, oh no, like, I don't gotta do it, right? I don't have to, I can skip swimming today, I can skip the gym today. Girl, a quick way as well, emotionally, call this emotional blackmail. I don't care. I find that it works. In that moment, ask yourself, right? The next time you want to skip certain things you want to do, try emotionally blackmailing yourself by saying, do you love yourself? How much do you love yourself? I find that really works as well, because I'm on, like, for me, 2024, and I know for a lot of people, 2024 is about making it happen. And I'm very big on, like, this is the life I want to have, and I'm going to make it happen because I know how important it is to me. And I love myself enough to make that life happen for me. Nobody's going to come and give you the life you want. You have to make it for you. right? So next time you're telling yourself you're lacking self-discipline, ask yourself that question: how much do you love yourself? Because if you love yourself, then you're going to want to give yourself the life you want. You're going to want to give yourself the healthy lifestyle you want. You're going to want to give yourself the healthy diets you want. You're going to want to give yourself, or let's not even call it healthy diets, the healthy eating habits, whatever it is you're wanting to give yourself. Do you love yourself enough? Because if you do, then you better be taking the actions. You better be staying consistent. So really tapping into the emotional sentiment, tapping into giving yourself an emotional anchor to whatever it is you're wanting to be good at, whatever you wanted to be consistent in, even if it's making money as well. I find that I'm a lot more consistent in my business ideas, in running my business, now that I've tied making money to an emotional sentiment. Having that emotional sentiment behind making money is fueling me, is motivating me. Same as everything, honestly, every objective I've set in my life, I've tied an emotional sentiment to it. And best believe I keep it moving, I keep it going. But saying that to say, obviously, learn and know when to be kind to yourself. So, like, guys, honestly, like, this works for me for the most part. But take when I'm on my period, for example, when is that time of the month? Good luck. Good luck trying to motivate me. Good luck trying to give me discipline. Like, there's those days in the months where you could not pay me to do certain things, right? So bear that in mind and be kind to yourself. But also be truthful to yourself. If once in a while you're lacking discipline, and once in a while you're lacking motivation, that's okay. That's showing kindness. But if for the most part, like, come on, like, if for the most part you're struggling, then be honest and be like, okay, so I'm just making excuses now. I'm lacking self-discipline, I'm lacking motivation. Let's go back and listen to that video Aura shared with us. Let's go back and listen to that podcast episode Aura shared with us and get it moving. But so that's the difference between being kind to yourself or just being self-indulgent. That's the huge difference between self-care and just like making up excuses, right? If your body's just genuinely too exhausted, or there's a definite reason, like aka a health reason, genuine health reason, not like, oh, but if you go swimming or if you go exercising, it's going to help that health reason. But if there's a strong reason where you're unable to do it, then I feel like there's nothing in the world that'll make you go for it. There's nothing in the world that will make you go to that gym class, that gym session. And that's where you then show kindness to yourself. But for the most part, try out this emotional hack, and I feel like it's going to be a game changer for you, because it really has been a game changer for me. And on that note, I'm going to end it here, guys. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. If you're listening on Spotify and Apple, then also be sure to follow, like, and give a review as well, because it really helps the podcast grow. And guys, until the next episode, take care, and I look forward to speaking to you soon. Take care. Why did I say that twice? I don't know, but I'm going to leave it in there. Bye, guys.